Okay, so I'm going to continue where I finish. So when we're talking about quantitative and qualitative data, what I meant is quantitative data, the type of data that usually we're dealing with is the numerical data. So whatever numbers that we deal with, whatever things that we can quantify, it is considered as a quantitative data. Vice versa, if we are dealing with non-numerical data, so it is categorized as a qualitative analysis, something which is which cannot be measured and which we cannot put numbers on it. So perhaps like text, okay, document, behavior, something like that. So it's like it's considered as a qualitative analysis. So the purpose of research in dealing with quantitative data is commonly to ascertain size, to get magnitude, okay, to count the amount of something. If we are talking about qualitative analysis or quantitative data, the purpose of doing that research is to express the nature of elements, and which is usually represented with themes, categories, patterns, stories. Okay, so in order to deal with these two types of data, we need to have a very specific methods to collect them. Okay, usually if we dealing with quantitative data, the method that we use to collect that type of data is through questionnaire, modeling, and etc. If we are dealing with qualitative data, which is non-numerical, text, pictures, videos, behavior, something like that, so we can collect the data through interview sessions, okay, case studies, observations, etc. The research methodology technology is actually it's from my not much of experience, I can say that the technology is, ever increasing, ever changing. So there are many methods. The technology is developing, especially towards the IR 4.0, when we're talking about big data and ICT and everything. But from my experience, I've used, okay, for the quantitative analysis, for the quantitative data collection, I analyze it using Microsoft Excel, okay, specific programs, for example like ArcMap 10, SPSS, whatever tool, okay, that I can use to represent or to analyze my quantitative data. If I'm dealing with qualitative data, there are some tools, example like NVivo, DPSIR, Microsoft Office programs, etc. Okay, so if you are talking about quantitative data, usually we are talking about statistics. Okay, that is the representative of the statistical methods. The statistic is actually the way to make sense of the data. Again, usually we use some measurement, for example like mean, median, mode, in order to to make sense of the data that we collected. And we also use measure of dispersion, okay, for example like standard deviation, especially if we want to compare, okay, compare two types of quantitative data. So we need to normalize the data first, okay, in order to compare it. So we use standard deviation. That is for quantitative data. If we are dealing with qualitative data, the approach to take is whether you want to use unstructured, structured, or semi-structured approach. If you opt to use unstructured approach, it means to say that your interview sessions, your focus group is not directed by a script. Okay, this I'm talking about the unstructured. So there is no script. So it is open up to the respondents. What are they going to talk about? Okay, you have another option which is structured, which is vice versa to the unstructured one. If you want to have an interview session with a respondent using structured approach, means to say that you have a script, you have questions that you give them prior to your interview sessions. Okay, and these are tightly scripted, okay, and often like a questionnaire, but this is one-to-one. Okay, perhaps in COVID times you're using Zoom or using Google Meet to interview them. Okay, it is to compare within these two extremes, which is unstructured and structured one. If you're using unstructured one, it is rich in ideas, rich in data, but is not replicable because it's depend on the perspective of the respondents, okay, which is not going to be same from one to another. However, if it's structured, you can replicate it because it's scripted, but may lack richness. Okay, so you are dealing with a very focus area. You're dealing with very focus. You have a question and you need only them to answer that question. This is much rather different, okay, from the unstructured one. So for example, like structured, for example, like you have a question about what is your age. Okay, so you have A 20 to 40 years old, and B, and so on and so on. Okay, to compare to a very unstructured one, which is for example, like you're dealing with what age, okay, what age do you consider as matured? That is one example of unstructured one. So one respondent might answer it from his or her point of view, which is going to be different from the other perspective of the other person. So you can also opt to be in the middle, so you can have a semi-structured interview perhaps. Okay, so it is guided by a script, but interesting issues can be explored in much more depth. Okay, it can provide a good balance between richness and replicability. So for example, like you have a script, but when the interview session is ongoing, the respondent seems to show an interest in only one question. So you can explore more on that questions, rather to go on to the next question that you have already prepared. Okay, so by that way it can provide a good balance lah. So you won't waste time, you won't make the analysis more complex by having only focus question to be explored. Okay, so there are steps, okay, that involve whenever you are using this tree approach, but usually commonly you are using you are going to go through these steps. Okay, the first one is saving data in various methods, whether it's in minutes of meeting, videos, pictures, voice recorder, etc. Again, and then after you save the data, you're going to look for recurrent themes, okay, or patterns, because if perhaps you have for an interview session you have 10 respondents, so they may talk about some similar thing, but using different ways of interpreting it, or different words of interpreting the similar thing. So you need to find the patterns, you need to find the themes, okay, and then you categorize them, and some category may be emergent or pre-specified. Perhaps you, from the interview sessions, you come up with the similar thing that you find in the literature review, or it comes from the perspective of the respondents. Okay, that is good thing. Okay, so you need, after you categorize them, after you find the emergent or the pre-specified themes, you should find the critical incidents. Okay, which one of the themes is actually critical? So it's always being mentioned by the respondents. Okay, and that theme helps you to focus in key events. Okay, so it means to say that if everyone is talking about the same thing, so it means to say that the problem arises in the same thing lah. So there should be explored more. Okay, so that is basically the theory of research methodology. Right now I'm going to share my background, okay, for which hamper the knowledge, which is my background, which is design, which becomes the the background of my theory that I've just shared with you guys. Okay, so this is for your kind information, which I'm going to, after this I'm going to share with you my research, all my research from my tertiary education, so that in order to do that I need to share with you guys my background. So I finished my tertiary education back in 2013, so 7 years ready now. So I'm just going to explain research, which is the research that I have done during my tertiary education, which is during my Bachelor of Civil Engineering degree, in my Masters of Engineering Management, and during my PhD studies in environmental research. Okay, so I did my bachelor degree in civil engineering at UTM, masters in engineering management at UPM, and my PhD is at Imperial College London. And the research title that I did for my bachelor degree is the bending analysis of rectangular space frame, and the second one is the behavior of lightweight concrete. During my Masters of Engineering Management, I did a research entitled Common Problems Encountered by Dredging Stakeholders, and for my PhD I did a risk-based decision-making framework for the integrated environmental management of dredged sediments. So for all of my research background, I use all three approach. Okay, all three approach, which is during my bachelor degree, obviously it is in engineering, it's quantitative research. For my master's degree I did qualitative, and for my PhD I did mixed, both quantitative and qualitative. So for my bachelor degree I did the computer modeling and laboratory work, and for my masters I did interview sessions with experts, and during my PhD I did questionnaire, case studies, and computer modeling. So the tool that I use for data analysis includes multi-frame 3D, Microsoft Office programs, DPSIR, ArcMapTemp, and MCDA, multi-criteria decision analysis. So this is the results that the results of the analysis from qualitative research for my masters, which I enhanced it during the first stage of my PhD. I use DPSIR, so D is acronyms for driver, pressure, state, impacts, response. So I would like for you to remember the meaning of the qualitative research, which is able to tell us stories about about the thing that I'm researching on. So I use DPSIR, okay, in a table form. So the story is something like this. Okay, I research about my field of studies, which is in dredging industry. So I found out that the driver of the problems that happen in dredging industry in Malaysia is socio-economic, which comes from the pressure of compensation costs for local communities that is in the state of high, which is in the state of high, which is in highly critical and the impact is cost, financial burden, and the response should comes from the client who, for example, like to build apartment for illegal residents on gazetted area and sell to local communities at a low price. So that is one way of telling a story that comes from the interview sessions from which I did in during my master's degree, which I interviewed 10 representatives of the dredging industry in Malaysia. So that is one way of representing the qualitative presentation. Another form, by using table form. Another form to represent the stories is through graphical form, like I'm showing you now. So I have a flow chart that starts from driving force, okay, the frequent dredging and exercise, okay, that create pressure, to the dredging rules and regulations, which is in the state of negative, state, that cause impacts on socio-economic, environment and management, and the response should be using integrated environmental management. So that is how I interpret the data that I get from the qualitative data collection. So if I'm dealing when I deal with quantitative data, I use mixed form, whether it's in graphical form, or in tabulate form, or in graph. Okay, like what you can see here, it all deal with numbers. Okay, so and geologic locations. Okay, so if I want to use graphical form, I can use the GIS, okay, the geographical information system, in order to point out, okay, where is the critical event happen. Like what I've shown you now. It's showing you the location of where the heavy metals are high in Sungai, in the river of Manjung, Setiawan. So I've also shown here the dredger location, okay, which creates the link of, okay, the link of the link of an event which is dredging to the event of high contents of trace metal. So that is one way of representing data, quantitative data. So like I just mentioned to you guys, I've used the mixed method, okay, for my PhD, which I combine quantitative and qualitative. How did I combine this? Is through this framework, okay. This framework, like you can see, there are three colors, okay, in green, in peach, and in purple. So for my PhD, I did DPSIR, okay, like I've mentioned to you now. It's dealing with qualitative, which covers the legislative, social, economical, and technological watch. Watch is same like observation, right? And then I combined it with risk assessment plus GIS, the one that I showed you during quantitative presentation form. Okay, so right there I give you in the critical, okay, the critical form and where it happened, okay, and then I combine it into one method, which is mix, okay. I combine both of these, quantitative and qualitative, to help making decision, okay, so that so that the sustainability of dredging operation can be improved. So I use whatever that I find, okay, in DPSIR, and whatever that I understand from the PSIR, I combine it together with the trace metal level, which comes from the document analysis and content analysis, and then I combine it into multi-criteria decision analysis. So there is a set of other analysis to help making decisions towards sustainability. So that is the example, okay, from my own experience. I think the most important thing for you guys to understand is whatever you are doing, you need to represent it back into your thesis as clearly as possible. Okay, so you need to find good models. Models here means writing models, okay, so that you can become you can make sure that whatever that you are trying to, whatever that you did is actually represented well. Okay, so I've given you here a good model, okay, but it's a very generic example. Okay, I'm not using any of my research methodology section in this, because I think it's very hard for you guys to actually imagine what I'm doing. So I'm using a very generic example, which is chicken preparation. Okay, so there is an introduction of methodology section and the body of it. Okay, so whatever you are doing, you need to make sure that you write it explicitly. Okay, and you have a justification what to write. Just remember the recipe, okay, plus justification. Okay, so in the research methodology, in your chapter 3, you should have your description about data analysis also, not only what you not only how you test it, but how you analyze it also. You need to have a writing for data analysis. So if you're dealing with quantitative data, so you can use descriptive statistics, okay, mean, median, mode, like I've mentioned, and if you want to compare numbers, you can use the inferential statistics, okay, the ANOVA, correlation, regression, and everything. If you're dealing with qualitative, you can use content analysis, okay, put data in themes like I did. You can also use discourse analysis, for example, like you just observe how people interact with each other and then describe it, okay, and analyze it. And you can also use narrative analysis on you can analyze how people talk about their experience also. Okay, so these data analysis are going to be explored more in next course. So this is only, that is not I'm going to talk about. Okay, so I think that is all from me for research methodology. If you think that you have any question, don't be afraid to contact me through my email or through my LinkedIn, right? So I hope whatever that I've mentioned, whatever that I've shared, whatever that I've told you today would help you in doing your research. Okay, and I wish you all good luck. Thank you.